Hello, good afternoon. Welcome, everybody. My name is Lutz. I'm the Secretary General of the Textile ETP, the European Technology Platform for the Future of Textiles and Clothing, and I'm very happy to welcome you all here today to our public webinar to present our strategic research and innovation agenda for the European Partnership Textiles of the Future. I want to inform you that the webinar is video recorded, and you will be able to find a recording of the webinar on our YouTube channel afterwards. You will be able to share any questions, any comments that you have through the chat function. So as we present, I ask you to make use of the chat function, maybe wait until the presentations are over to see if any of those questions that you have may be answered still, but then we will have a Q&A session at the end where you can intervene. So we have a very simple agenda here. I'm happy to welcome two additional speakers here. We have Marie-Hélène Pradines, the head of unit of the unit dealing with the textile sector at DG GROW of the European Commission, who will very briefly introduce the background of the political, let's say, logic of this partnership and in which way the European Commission looks at it and what expectations it has. Then we have here also Dirk Vantyghem, the Director General of Eurotex, who will share with us the industry logic and the industry trends that Eurotex sees and works on, and to which obviously our agenda is targeted to and aligned with. And then last but not least, I will come back to present you the technical details of our strategic research and innovation agenda, on which we have worked over the last 3 months. And then we'll finish off with a Q&A session, as I mentioned before. So any questions, any comments that you have to whatever is being presented, please share that with us in the chat. And then I will go into the chat afterwards and pick out your questions, and any of the 3 speakers will then try to answer those. So as I said, we are at the end of a fairly intense a little over 3 months process here, which started, or where the starting shot, so to speak, has been given by the European Commission in its announcement of a number of new partnerships under Horizon Europe, which was made in late March. And among these new Horizon Europe partnerships, the partnership Textiles of the Future has been announced. So that sent us then immediately working on our first key document, which is our strategic research and innovation agenda. So we started the process off with a induction webinar with all our ETP stakeholders, all our members, to collect the first round of input on what are the priorities in terms of research and innovation for this partnership, or what should be the priorities. Then we opened it up also to the public at our annual conference on the 14th of May, where there were a number of interactive sessions looking at more detailed technical input, and we launched a second survey among our members to really collect the technical details. And then we worked out a first draft, which we circulated among all stakeholders, and we had a kind of a validation webinar and an assessment webinar of those priorities or those technical topics, and to give them priorities so that we can build them into this agenda in the correct way, which happened a little less than 3 weeks ago. And then over the last 3 weeks, we worked very intensively to put the document together that we will be able to present to you today. So what you see here today is that result of this 3.5 months process. As I said, it was an intense process. It involved more than 250 individual experts from the industry and from our research community from all over Europe, as these partnerships are supposed to be very inclusive, very Europe covering, and also a partnership between industry, the research community, and the European policymakers. So that's the process that we've undergone, and from here on, I would like to now hand over to our first speaker, Marie-Hélène Pradines from DG Grow of the European Commission. I hope Marie-Hélène is on the call.
Yes, I am. I don't know if
yes,
you can
you
see
are.
me.
Hello, Marie-Hélène. So I give the floor to you. I don't know if other participants can see you yet. I cannot see you, but it may be due to them in presentation mode.
I don't know. I have my camera
Yes,
on. So.
we can see you.
Perfect. Now I can see you too. Perfect. So I let you start with your presentation, and each time you want me to change your slide, then you tell me.
Okay, you can go to the first slide then. I mean, the idea, I mean, is to, why I intervene first, I mean, to remind the framework, yeah, of this partnership, where we come from and what are our objectives. So, okay, why you co-program European partnership? First of all, I mean, because of the situation of the textiles production itself. As you can see, I mean, it's a fourth highest pressure category for primary raw material, water, and fifth for gas emissions. So it's a good reason to intervene and to help the sector. As a framework, I mean, as you probably remember, I mean, the Commission adopted in 2022 a European strategy for sustainable and circular textiles, and then following the strategy, we elaborated the textiles transition pathway, which was the identification with the stakeholders of the actions to be implemented to make the sector greener, more digital, and in the end more resilient. And then there is, following the strategy in the framework mainly of the Green Deal, a whole set of new legislation which will have an important impact on the textile production, changing the way how textiles is designed, produced, used, disposed. So, I mean, they will have this legislation will have quite an important impact. And of course, to cope with this new regulation, I mean, to help the transformation of the ecosystem, innovation of the companies, the way they produce textile is really key. So this is the general context for which we propose this European partnership for textiles. It was a huge fight to get there, and we had to convince, and you see on the screen as well, the main objectives of the partnership with three main dimensions. Market dimension, first of all, strengthen the resilience and sustainable competitiveness of the industry. Technology dimension, I mean, I mentioned already innovation and the digital and technological transformation will be an important component of this transformation. Quality and innovation dimension as well, to support the sector, to support its independency, quality, heritage, know-how, but also the creativity of the sector. So this is the general context, and this will be confirmed during the new mandate. It should be confirmed. I mean, we have to be careful, because I mean, we are still in between two mandates. The next mandate will very much emphasize the market dimension and the competitiveness of the industry. And I mean, making the textile sector more competitive goes through all this transformation, and the partnership should help for this. Now you can go to the next slide, which explain a bit more the framework of the partnership as such. It is a partnership financed under the program Horizon Europe, within the cluster 4 of this program, which is dedicated to digital, industry, and space. The budget in total is 60 million euros, shared between the program itself and the industry for the co-financing. The lead organization, as you probably know, because we are there today, is a European Technology Platform for Textiles. This ETP will implement the partnership. What does that mean? It means that there will be a definition of the course for the proposals every year. First of all, the general strategic research and innovation agenda that will be presented today, and then it will be implemented via annual calls, and we will have one already in 2025. I will come back to this. Next slide. Okay, here you have a bit more information about Horizon Europe and the Cluster 4 in particular. So Horizon Europe in the current MFF was really made to support the green and digital transition, and in the end to have a more resilient, competitive, inclusive and democratic Europe. This is a big objective. And Cluster 4 in particular, as I said before, is dedicated to digital industry and space. And you see in the small boxes in the end what are the expected impacts of the Cluster 4, the area of intervention, and you see as well on the right side the different partnerships defined, agreed under this cluster for the period 2025-27, and you have in a red box the textile of the future. That was to give you a good idea of where this partnership is standing. I think it's important to have this general context. Next slide. The previous slide was presenting Cluster 4 in particular, but it's also important to have in mind that there are links between this cluster and this partnership in particular with other clusters of Horizon Europe and also with other partnerships. And this has to be taken into account when defining the strategic orientations of the partnership. And I know, because we discussed it before with Lutz, that it was fully taken into account. So you have also possible funding via Cluster 6, which is via financing mainly circularity, sustainability. Cluster 2, financing everything linked to creativity and design. There are also some actions under Made in Europe, Circular Bio-Based Europe, Cultural Creativity, I mentioned already Cluster 2, and all other new partnerships decided under Horizon Europe, as for example, advanced materials. So all these links will have to be taken into account when implementing the textiles partnership under Cluster 4. Next slide. And last one, you have the timeline for the following the adoption of the strategic plan 2025-2027. So in spring, there was already some preparation with partnership guidance and a proposal document to prepare the framework of the partnership. We had a webinar organized by ETP. We were there. It was Marie-Hélène who were there to prepare the strategic research and innovation agenda. Already we had some exchanges on this. Then there was in June the draft strategic research and innovation agenda finalized, and it will be presented today in July, fully in time. And we should have as well by the end of the month the publication of the partnership guidance and proposal document, which is a document we prepared with RTD to frame as well the implementation of the partnership. And in the end, based on the strategic research and innovation agenda, we have to prepare a memorandum of understanding by the end of the year, which will formalize the agreement we will have as Commission with ETP as the main partner to implement the partnership. And then serious things will start in 2025 with the implementation of the first topic under this partnership. I don't know if you want me to already to say something about this work program 2025, Lutz, or maybe
you can. Yes,
yeah?
I will mention it in the end, but please go ahead,
Yeah, okay.
Marie-Hélène.
So we have identified together a topic for 2025, which is mainly focusing on digitalization, I would say, to enable local textiles and apparel production. An indicative budget on 10 million on the Commission side. And okay, it will be developed in 2025. We are now in the phase of preparing the work program in line with the global strategic plan for 2025-2027. We are quite advanced in this. It should be finalized by the end of the year and adopted beginning of next year by the new college. So we can have a fine tune and have some margin for discussion, but I think it's really quite advanced. And then we plan to have over the 3 years a topic per year for the implementation of the partnerships. But I guess, I mean, you will give more details, I mean, when presenting the research and innovation agenda.
Yeah.
So I will stop there. I mean, if you have any question about this framework, I will be happy to answer now or later, up to you.
Thank you very much, Marie-Hélène. We decided to collect any questions that people have and that we encourage to put in the chat of the webinar here. We address all these questions at the end so that we make sure that those questions are not already being answered during the presentations. So, well, thank you very much for this introduction. I think it's very important for people to understand how this partnership is framed also within the overall European policy and in general, and the Horizon Europe program in particular, which, as you say, still has 3 years of implementation, 2025 to 2027. And these are the 3 years in which we expect this partnership to be active, obviously in the hope that we are successful with this partnership and it can be extended beyond that time frame. But that would be then a completely different discussion when the preparation for the next multi-annual framework program for research and innovation would start. So after the intervention of the European Commission, now I think it's time to listen to the industry. So if I can ask Dirk Vantyghem to jump in, and well, our strategic research and innovation agenda naturally starts with a reflection on where we stand as an industry, as a sector, when it comes to competitiveness, to major challenges, and also to the policy context. And that's why Dirk will introduce that. And Dirk, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Lutz. Thank you, Marie-Hélène, and good afternoon, everybody. I hope you can all hear me and see me. At least it's great to be together this afternoon, and I want to upfront thank Lutz and the team in ETP for having prepared this document, and obviously thanks again to Marie-Hélène for working together over the last, I think it is 12 months by now, to push this Textiles of the Future partnership with the Commission, with the European Parliament, with member states. So basically to convince all these players that it does make sense, it is necessary to have a dedicated partnership for the textile sector. And as Marie-Hélène said, I just want to echo her words. We, from Eurotex's perspective, from the European textile industry perspective, we see this investment in innovation as a necessary step to boost our competitiveness. So that's the bottom line. Many of us know that the European textile industry is facing some challenges, and I will share with you a few points. But investing in innovation is one critical element to maintain our competitive edge in this global textile environment. So therefore, once again, we're very grateful that we have landed with the partnership. Of course, now the next step will be the implementation, but it's a great step forward that finally we have this partnership established. As Lutz said, the idea is that I very quickly give you a bit of a background of the textile industry, and I'm aware that for many of the participants joining us this afternoon, this will be kind of common knowledge, but maybe not everybody. So it's probably good to remind ourselves, everybody, what textiles are all about in Europe, the textile industry, the textile ecosystem, and what indeed are the main changes, the main challenges that are impacting our sector, and how the partnership, the Horizon Europe partnership, will actually help to manage these changes. This first slide is kind of, emphasizing the obvious for many of you, but I think it's important to always remind ourselves that when we talk about textiles, we talk about a very, very broad sector with many applications. We all know, of course, the fashion and garment industry. You may be familiar with the home textiles, but the message here, as it's written on the slide, is to say that textiles are everywhere, in the construction industry, in the transport, automotive, in sports. So textile applications are used across many other ecosystems, and that is why it's important at European level, obviously, to keep on investing in the textile industry, to keep on innovating in our sector. Next, please. On this slide, I just shared one basic kind of graphic with some figures about the importance of the industry, and you can see the numbers for yourself. It's 170 billion euro turnover that we are generating within the 27 member states. Nearly 200,000 companies operating in the sector, employing 1.3 million workers. And you can see the division, as I said, it's not just about fashion. It's an important segment, 32%. But you have all the technical textiles, the fabrics making, the home textiles, and then other segments of the industry. So it's a very, very wide industry, and it's an important segment of the European economy. Next slide, please. As Marie-Hélène was saying, the European Union, the European Commission, took a strong interest in the textile ecosystem over the last few years, and they have indeed launched this dedicated strategy for sustainable and circular textiles back in 2022, focusing very much on the environmental footprint of our sector, so on how can we improve the sustainability of our ecosystem. But at the same time, the Commission has also identified textiles as one of the 14 what they call strategic ecosystems of the European economy. So basically, the Commission has recognized that textiles, on the one hand, have a challenge in reducing our environmental footprint, but at the same time recognizing that textiles is an important sector of the European economy and therefore needs or deserves to be supported. And that's why, again, the partnership that we are celebrating today reflects very much this kind of double ambition that the European Union has. Double ambition, on the one hand, improve our sustainability or reduce our footprint. At the same time, through this investment in innovation, make sure that the textile industry, as part of the wider European industry, can remain competitive. That is the bottom line. Next slide, please. As a result of this focus, as a result of this dedicated textile strategy, there is indeed a lot of legislation coming into force. Marie-Hélène referred to it already, and you can see on the screen some examples of new legislation, new policies which are being developed. It's about establishing eco-design regulations, introducing a digital product passport. It's launching an extended producer responsibility. It's working on handling our waste, chemical restrictions. It's introducing more transparency towards the consumer. It's revising the textile labeling regulation. So in short, there is an entirely new regulatory framework which is being developed, to which our companies will need to comply from a legal perspective, but to which our companies also will need to develop new technologies, new applications, new business models to comply within this new regulatory environment. And as again, Marie-Hélène already mentioned, apart from the legislation and the regulation, of course, we have this framework, we have this transition pathway, which is giving us a kind of a guidance, a roadmap, how to move forward in adopting the legislation, implementing the legislation, and make sure that our companies can manage the transition successfully. On the next slide, I think you see one of the most important kind of changes, which summarizes, I think, the main ambition that we have collectively, which is to move the textile industry from a traditional linear business model, from making your fibers, your yarns, turn them into fabrics and make your final products, and then get rid of them, to develop this more circular business cycle. I think many of you have seen this kind of graphic before. So it's really try to reinvent the textile industry to become more circular, to reduce our environmental footprint. That is the kind of the bottom line ambition of this textile strategy. Now, based on all that, on the next slide, I try to summarize some of the key challenges that our sector is facing, in front of this important change that is coming from the textile strategy, that is coming from these ambitious plans from the European Union. And they are elaborated more in detail in the report, in the strategic agenda, which you will see. But on the screen, just a few, I would say, key words, trying to really share with you what are those key challenges, and once again, how the Horizon Europe Partnership and the Textiles of the Future Partnership should contribute to respond to manage those challenges. And that's the whole idea, of course. Number one, of course, the sustainability focus. It's clear, we mentioned it before. And of course, from an industry perspective, it's all about how do we reconcile sustainability and competitiveness. And so how do we indeed push and support our companies, our textile companies, to be more sustainable and to reduce our footprint in terms of waste, in terms of chemicals, in terms of use of water and other resources, while at the same time make sure that our companies can remain competitive in a very global market. That is one of the most important questions that we need to handle. The whole digitalization process is important in that context. And I was happy to hear Marie-Hélène already announcing that as part of the partnership, digitalization will be kind of a first priority, because it's clear that pushing the industry or helping the textile industry for this digital transformation using AI, etc., will be very important to remain that competitive edge. We need to look into new raw materials. How do we move away from certain raw materials that have an important environmental impact? How can we introduce recycled materials? How can we work more with bio-based materials? Again, reducing our footprint will be important, but what is the technology? Where are we in terms of technological development? Do we have the same quality as with virgin fibers, for example? So that is a challenge that we have today. We need to think about new business models. The whole circularity, as I mentioned before, is critically important. But it's not just about recycling. It's also about reuse, secondhand, even promoting more kind of a service-based textile industry. So not just buy, use, and throw away, but renting, for example, comes into the picture. We need to address the consumer dimension. When we want to change the whole textile industry, it's not just about the manufacturer or the brands, but it's also about consumer behavior. How does the consumer react to the online platforms that are available today? How can we change their behavior? How can we create more transparency towards the consumer to make sure that the consumer understands what kind of garment is he or she buying, what is the environmental footprint, the environmental costs of that garment. So that is a very broad area of work that we need to work on. And then supply chain integration. All these changes call for a better cooperation between the manufacturer, the brand, and the consumer. So we can see, as a result of all these changes, all this new legislation, changes in the market, that we have a new dynamic, a new cooperation, again, between the different stakeholders across the supply chain. So that also calls for certain innovation. Further on the next slide, we added some more kind of challenges or changes that are taking place in the industry. There's a lot of discussion about reshoring. Again, from the perspective of reducing our footprint, can we bring closer to the market? Can we bring back to the market some of the production for garment products, for example? And is there a scope for having this regional, closer to Europe supply chains? Question mark. There are some discussions. There are some attempts to work on that. We need to look, of course, at the cost of production when it comes to energy, for example, when it comes to the use of water and chemicals. As I mentioned, again, the EU is putting up restrictions. How do we manage? What are the alternatives in terms of chemicals? What is the cost of those alternatives? We need to look more globally at the resilience of our manufacturing base in Europe. There is an important broader discussion as to the, let's say, industrial competitiveness of Europe, reduce our dependency, our supplies coming from China, from the US, etc. So how can we strengthen our resilience, reduce our dependency here in Europe? Linked to that, the whole topic of fair competition on global markets. If Europe is making this transition towards a more sustainable, quality-driven textile industry, how do we make sure that also the rest of the world is following the example, and we maintain a kind of an environment where trade can happen, but it's free and fair. So there's important questions related to market surveillance, to making sure that, again, everybody is playing by the same rules. There are new textile applications. Come back to my first slide. It's not just about garments, but many other new applications for textile products in many other segments of the European industry. So we need to be creative. We need to think about innovation where textiles can be used in other applications. And a final challenge, or a final element, let's say, in this very broad reflection, is about the people that we need to work in our companies, to make sure that we have enough qualified workforce, young qualified workforce joining our companies, make sure these people have the relevant set of skills, whether it is linked to sustainability, whether it's linked to digitalization. That is another kind of challenge, another bottleneck that we need to address. So this is very, very quickly some of the kind of changes and challenges which our sector is facing. And again, I refer to the detailed report for a more kind of in-depth analysis of those different elements. But the summary or the essence that I wanted to share with you as an introduction to the partnership is to emphasize how much the textile industry is going through important changes. Again, driven by the legislation and driven by this textile strategy, driven by the market, by the global competition. We all know what's happening on global apparel markets. So there are these big changes that are happening. And again, I repeat what I said in the beginning, having this innovation partnership, the Textile of the Future partnership, is a critical element in building a plan, building a strategy that will help our companies to remain competitive in this very fast changing environment. It's clear that the partnership in itself will not be enough. There is much more work that needs to be done, on which Eurotex is working quite intensively. But once again, we're very happy to have the political agreement on the partnership, and we are very much counting on ETP and the whole wider innovation network that we have in Europe to successfully implement the partnership, so to come up with creative solutions which can address maybe not all of these challenges, obviously, but at least can pick up on some of these points and really come up with a constructive, innovation-driven solution to address those challenges. So again, from Eurotex's perspective, we very much look forward to the successful implementation of the partnership, and we count on the many actors in the kind of textile innovation network to actively contribute to the implementation again of the partnership. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Dirk, for putting the work here in the right industrial context, because whatever I will present now afterwards is something that had to go through, if you want, through two filters. Everything that we try to do here in this new partnership has to contribute to the competitiveness of the European textile ecosystem, and at the same time has to advance the sustainability challenges that we have ahead of us. So these were sort of the two filters that through which we looked at everything that I'm going to present now, and I want you really to keep that in mind. Of course, there are many things that you can do in the field of research and innovation. There are many things that are probably interesting to do, but we needed to be very strategic and very selective about this. But of course, textile research and innovation doesn't happen in a vacuum. It is built on many advances in various areas of research and general technology, and that's what we also looked at and what you will find described in our strategic agenda. So there are a number of key enabling technologies that we believe are necessary to bring to bear in order to advance in the various research and innovation domains that we have identified. So, and we have put them kind of in two buckets. So the first bucket, which we see here on this slide, is the digital technologies, where there's an enormous progress that is going on right now. And I think AI is just, let's say, the tip of the iceberg. We have been talking about big data and machine learning already for quite a while, but I think now the AI in the form of the large language models and things like ChatGPT and so on, that all of a sudden becomes available to the everyday consumer, I think has given people really a feeling that this is an area where things really move extremely fast. And I think many people in the industry also believe that it can revolutionize many things that we do in the textile industry, whether it's in design, in production, in the distribution and the supply chain, but also in the way we interact with customers, whether these are consumers or business customers. And because the textile sector, the textile material, textile products are enormously diversified and enormously complex. So we have vast data sets in our industry. We create vast data sets, and if we can do more with these vast data sets, then I think we can be a lot smarter. So that is definitely an area or a type of technology that we see as extremely impactful. But also the whole area of virtualization, the idea of creating digital twins of textile materials, of textile processes, of entire factories or entire supply chains is something that has enormous potential to enhance agility, to reduce waste, and also to build on additional value-adding services through the entire product life cycle. Being a bit more sort of on the hardware side of things, sensors and vision technologies can be a big advance in many the textile innovation domains, whether it comes to integrating sensors and other microelectronics into textile materials to create e-textiles or smart wearables, or equipping textile machines, textile technology with sensors, with vision technologies for better quality assurance, data capturing that you may need for regulatory compliance or for better inventory management and so on. Another area that we believe has tremendous potential is robotics and the related concept of digital microfactories. So we know that there's still too many processes in our industry that are manual, that require intervention of human labor, which is costly, but is also introducing quality issues and so on. So robotics, cobots that may work in collaboration with human workers, but also the whole idea of really very tight digital integration of whole factories to allow very flexible material handling, on-demand production is something that we believe we will see breaking through in the not so distant future. I already mentioned the microelectronics, so IoT, Internet of Things, and wearables. Things are devices become smaller and smaller and powerful and less energy hungry, which allows integration into textiles in a much better way. And that can be helpful in many domains, whether it's healthcare, whether it's sports, whether it's consumer electronics, and so on. And then finally, also the whole area of traceability, which is typically now represented by the Digital Product Passport, DPP, is something where legislation will drive the industry to adopt more digital integration, more data sharing across the supply chain. And so the technologies also that are available or becoming available for this are very crucial to be really adapted to the needs of the industry. Then the other area of technologies is what we call materials and process technologies. So this is something that I would say are generally a bit more established in the industry for many, many decades. We have sustainable chemistry and biotechnologies that will help us to develop safer, more environmental friendly textile processing methods that still ensure that the product performance that we are accustomed to is met. On the material side, we will see more and more that we see a lot of development of next generation fibers, including biosynthetics. The big challenge is always to bring those to market at large scale and at economics and with functionalities that can match the conventional materials. Then, of course, the big field of recycling and circularity, where there are many mechanical and chemical recycling processes that still needs to be let's say brought to the right maturity level so that it can work at large scale, can work with different materials, different fiber types, different fiber blends, but also resulting in very high quality recycled fibers that are effectively able to be taken up by the industry. Resource efficiency, Dirk spoke about resource cost challenges. So the less we use water, the less we use energy, the more we recover energy or water or chemicals that we use in processes, the more it benefits both the bottom line of the company, but also the environment. So that is something that we see has still tremendous potential. Electrification and the use of renewable energy is the crucial topic to move textile production towards net zero CO2 emissions. So we know that it's still about 55% of all the electricity, of all the energy used in the textile industry in Europe is fossil based. So to bring that down to basically zero over time, we will need a lot of innovation in the electrification of especially wet processing, which is mostly still based on gas-fired processes. So in order to move the industry towards closer to CO2 neutral, we need to electrify all these processes, and then obviously the electric energy that we use in those processes has to come from CO2 neutral sources as well, which is something that doesn't depend only on the industry, but the industry can influence as well through local solar installations, for instance. And last but not least, if you want to show that your products, your processes are indeed more sustainable than conventional products and processes, you need tools, you need processes to evaluate that. So eco-design, life cycle analysis, life cycle costing, and similar tools will have to be developed, will have to be adapted to the specific needs of the textile industry, and also made available and practically usable for small companies. So this is just a very quick summary of our key enabling technologies, and you will see some of these icons here coming back when I talk about our research priorities. So as I said before, we do all of this with a central objective of making our industry more competitiveness and more competitive and more sustainable. So our vision is built around that idea that we say we start from research and development on low impact functional materials, on clean and efficient processes, on digital technologies, and on innovative business models, which will then feed the industrial innovation and entrepreneurship function, so that we can have competitive manufacturing of textile and clothing products in Europe. We can make them increasingly in regional supply chains. We can effectively design and manufacture sustainable products, and we can add value-adding services to those products and keep them longer in use. And if we do all of that correctly, then we will reap societal benefits in the form of quality jobs, in the form of higher and more sustainable industrial competitiveness, and in the form of more responsible, more sustainable consumption. So this is the underlying logic for the partnership that guided our search for those research priorities. So what are now our research and innovation priorities? So this is really the technical heart of the matter that I would like to dive into now. You will see that there is a structure where we have identified 3 priority areas. And for each priority area, you have between 4 and 5 strategic topics. And each of these strategic topics then has a number of research and innovation objectives attached to them. And all of those details you can find in the document that we are effectively publishing today. So those 3 topics are priority area 1, sustainable materials and clean processes, with the strategic topics of sustainable bio-based feedstock, sustainable fibers, sustainable textile chemistry, resource-efficient processes, and efficient end-of-life sorting, separation, and recycling. Our second priority area is digital supply chains and circular business models, with the strategic topics of digitalization of the textile value chain, sustainability and circular data management, design for sustainability and circularity, and circular business models and value-added customer and end-user services. And our priority area 3, advanced manufacturing and high-performance textiles, has another 4 strategic topics attached to it: automated, AI-supported smart manufacturing, on-demand digital and network manufacturing, safe and sustainable materials for technical applications, and advanced multifunctional materials for technical applications. So let me run through those topics one by one to give you a bit of a flavor of what we really mean by these areas. So this is a very busy slide. I will not read it out to you. You will receive those slides. You will receive also, you can download the entire document, which I really encourage you to do and to read, because it's really collective expertise from, as I said, some 250 experts that were involved in it. But just to give you a flavor here, so for each of those strategic topics, we always ask our experts how significant would be the sustainability impact if those technologies are effectively developed and deployed at industrial scale in the industry, and which are the key technologies that are needed to make the necessary advances in these areas. So you can see, for instance, when we start with topic 1, sustainable bio-based feedstock, which is sort of the stage before we make fibers, actually. So, and these feedstocks can come from different sources. They can come from agriculture. They also come from waste resources. They come from forestry, and so on. And we need to make sure that that these resources can be made available and usable by the textile value chain. Then when it comes to the actual making of the sustainable fibers, we believe there is significant potential for better use of natural and bioresources, natural fibers and bioresources generated in Europe. But there's also a need to develop sustainable processing and the right economics and functionalities of those bio-based fibers. And also novel fiber types and the conventional synthetics made from bio-derived feedstocks, so the so-called biosynthetics, have a significant potential. When it comes to textile chemistry, it's of course about phasing out hazardous chemicals or chemicals of concern that will be increasingly removed from the European market, but we have to make sure that we can replace them with equivalent, so functionally equivalent solutions that are renewable, that are non-toxic as much as possible, that may be bio-derived or bio-based, and that we also establish the safe and sustainable by design principle as much as possible in the textile chemistry and fiber innovation area. Then I already mentioned before, resource-efficient processes. There's a lot that we need to do when it comes to lowering our greenhouse gas emissions, which are mostly linked to the manufacturing stages, especially to the wet processing. So the use of energy, the use of water, the use of materials and chemicals, all can be lowered, and that will benefit both industry or economy and society. We need to make sure that alternative and recycled fibers are as processable and as functional as the conventional alternative. So, and processing improvements are necessary for this. We can also greatly benefit from upgrading and retrofitting existing processing technologies and processing lines in factories. And also when it comes to water, better use of water, better cycling and recovery of water, of processed water, and where necessary, then also more efficient treatment of wastewater are important areas that we should look into. And last but not least, under priority area 1, we have the whole recycling concept, which starts obviously with the collection, the sorting, the separation, until you get to the actual mechanical or chemical recycling process. So there's a lot of innovation that needs to happen across this whole spectrum, starting from both post-consumer but also post-industrial inputs, seeing to what extent those materials feed the same sort of closed loop, the same industry, but also some non-textile value chains. How can we lower the cost involved and also the related environmental impact of using energy and using solvents and other chemicals in the recycling process? How can we have better technology for sorting, for separation, and so on, that makes it effective also at local scale and smaller scale? And then last but not least, to really focus on the quality standards for recycled fibers and textile products made of recycled fibers. So a lot of priorities here in the area of sustainable materials and clean processes. Almost as many strategic topics also in priority area 2, digital supply chains and new business models, starting off with the concept of a complete digitalization of the textile value chain. So that means that we need data, we need to generate, we need to process, we need to communicate data across the value chain, and we need to do that in a very automated way to avoid errors, to avoid human intervention as much as possible. That means that we need to have connectivity and interoperability of data and of systems across the entire value chain. There is, as I mentioned before, there's a wealth and a complexity of data that we believe is something that humans simply cannot process and work with or not optimize sufficiently, and then we need AI assisted or even AI driven systems to deal with this complexity of data. And I mentioned before the digital twins that have great potential to simulate, to optimize, and also to reproduce certain processes or materials or products that have been produced before. Then there is not only data management needed for, let's say, efficiency purposes, but also for sustainability and circularity purposes. So we need to be able to capture, to verify, to analyze all primary data that is necessary to make assessments of sustainability and to make good decisions also at the design stage about circularity optimization. There are needs for new concepts, for new methods, systems, and standards. How to share this data along the value chain. Reporting and certification is a big issue for the industry. We cannot do reporting and certification in the way that it is done today, where there's a lot of manual intervention, where there's a lot of scope for errors, for misrepresentation, and so on. We are facing the industry is facing the Green Claims Directive, which means that whatever you communicate to your consumers has to be proven, has to be based on data. And if this data is not reliable and not accessible, then this is obviously problematic. Then we believe there is an enormous potential to give designers and product developers the right tools and the right data to make really good decisions at this stage in the value chain. So how can we connect the design and the development process with processing, with use, with end of life to create maximum value and to minimize impact. To use deep data or to make deep data available at the design phase to optimize products related to the chosen business model. So is it a business model that is really based on circularity, on ease of recycling? Is it a business model more focused on durability for maximum use life, or other factors that are very important? Simulation visualization are important tools to make the design process much more efficient. And also the data flows, the feedback loops from the production, from the use phase, from the end of life phase back into the design process is something that is virtually non-existent today, but needs to be established. And last but not least, I talked about it earlier. It's not only about producing products and designing products in the most efficient and most sustainable way, but it's also extracting as much economic value from the materials, from the products that we make and that we sell. And that means circular and value-added service models where we can add additional value through services on top of a product, which can allow us to optimize resource optimization, waste minimization, also facilitate consumer engagement, consumer contribution to the concept of circularity and sustainability, and also can provide an enormous input for education, training, for collaboration in the whole product and service design domain. So this was a short summary of the digital supply chains and new business model area. A lot more detail you will find in the actual document. And now coming to the last of the three priority areas, advanced manufacturing and high performance textiles, where we have again 4 strategic topics. We have automated AI supported smart manufacturing, all focused on productivity, versatility, resource efficiency of manufacturing processes, solving productivity and quality issues that are often related to manual handling of materials, but also manual handling of data through robotics and through smart automation, quality and improvements, and the concept of zero defect manufacturing approaches, and also raising factory efficiency and minimizing waste generation through predictive and remote maintenance of technology. Then the very important area of on-demand manufacturing. We know that especially in the clothing industry and fashion industry, most of the production that takes place today is not on demand, but it's on forecast, which leads to a very significant share of overproduction, so of the manufacturing of products that are never sold or that cannot be sold in a cost-covering way. So we believe there's a great potential to bring digital and network manufacturing capacity to bear to overcome this problem and to move at least to some extent to an on-demand and much more local manufacturing process, which means digitalization, it means automation, and it means process integration, so that you can react extremely, or manufacturers can react extremely quickly to demand changes, that can also produce very efficiently small orders or even customized products. And can also use these local manufacturing resources for after sales phase, such as professional care, maintenance, repair services, and so on and so forth. And then, as Dirk mentioned it already in the beginning, we're not here talking about only conventional clothing and home textiles. We should never forget that a significant part of our industry here in Europe, of the textile industry in Europe, is serving technical end markets and has been very, very successful in it. But it doesn't mean that there's no scope for further improvement and further enhancement of this part of the industry. So there is also a greater need in the technical textile markets to use safer and more sustainable materials. To some extent, also bio-based and recycled materials can be used and should be used more in technical applications, even if that may not be the first focus of regulation, but the market also often demands it already. And also technical textile products should be recycled at the end of their life cycle. Some of those life cycles are extremely long, like if you take construction textiles or geotextiles, which may be in service for decades. But other technical textiles, such as nonwovens, for instance, are sometimes in use for a very, very short time only, and should then also we should be able to recycle them very effectively. There's also the issue of dealing with textile and non-textile material mixes in areas like composites and so on, that we also need to address, because there recycling is still a big challenge, and there's also scope here to bring textile innovation to bear to make sure that these materials that we're using more and more in areas like transport, in renewable energy, and so on, in construction, where we see a lot more use of fiber-based or fiber-reinforced composite materials, and that we need to find solutions there also for dismantling and recycling. And last but not least, those technical textiles often derive their value from the functionalizations or the functions or the multifunctionals that the materials can provide, especially through the surfaces of those materials. So we need more solutions, more innovation in the area of functional surfaces, functional structures for very specific and very high added value end applications, whether it be in the medical sector, in the personal protective equipment sector, and in other sectors where very specific functional structures and surfaces are needed. Thinking about also areas such as filtration and so on, where textile products are really crucial, are life-saving often, or equipment and infrastructure protecting. So there's a lot of potential here. And I mentioned it also in the beginning, e-textiles and smart wearables are an area where we see a lot of potential, and we believe that new technologies, whether it coming from microelectronics, coming from the manufacturing sector, from the assembly approaches, are available today or becoming available today, so that we see more smart textiles really at industrial scale used in many end markets, whether it's sports, whether it's automotive, whether it's healthcare, and so on and so forth. So also in the technical end markets, we see a lot of potential. So this brings me to the end. As I said, this is really a very short summary, and I would not expect you to take note of all of this in my very short presentation. So I really encourage you to go to the actual document and read it carefully. What I want to finish with now is, of course, the implementation. And here Marie-Hélène has already mentioned sort of the principal steps, but I would like to go a little bit more into practical detail of how this will be done going forward. So this partnership will have basically a strategic program of activities, which will be defined in this memorandum of understanding that Marie-Hélène has mentioned, that we will sign with the European Commission before the end of 2025. And this strategic program of activities has a number of components. The core component, of course, is our Textiles of the Future projects. So these are the projects that will be funded under the dedicated calls of Horizon Europe, included in the work programs for 2025, 2026, and 2027. And Marie-Hélène already anticipated that, well, we will most likely look at one dedicated call per work program per year, so that we look at 3 calls in total, which should then result in the funding of a number of these projects, these collaborative projects. Some of these projects, including the first call, may actually also use the cascade funding model that I think many of you know, where a consortium receives a larger grant and then provides this, or a part of this grant, in the form of micro grants to individual SMEs that are not known at the beginning of the project, but can apply in an open call for very quick and very flexible innovation projects within the greater the overall scope of the project. So these projects, and as Marie-Hélène mentioned, the overall envelope of those projects should be 60 million euros, provided both by the European Commission and the private stakeholders. These core activities will be supplemented by a number of additional and complementary activities. Also here, it was mentioned already before by Marie-Hélène, there is not only the area of Cluster 4 in Horizon Europe that will fund projects related to this strategic agenda. We believe there's a lot of scope in other clusters, especially Cluster 6, to some extent also Cluster 2, to fund projects that are clearly linked to this strategic agenda. Then there are also other programs, EU funding programs, such as the I3 Interregional Innovation Investments Program, the Life Plus program, the Interact program, that are all available to fund activities that can be related to this strategic agenda. These would then not be research projects, but rather innovation and market take-up projects. There are also many national and regional programs existing that we would like to see linked in some way to this strategic agenda. And also, as industry especially gets involved in those textiles of the future projects and derives technologies that are exploitable, those companies will make follow-up investments in demonstration and exploitation of these technologies that we also see as a direct trigger from this partnership. And last but not least, we will also engage in a number of collective activities, especially in the area of dissemination and community building. For this, we will use on the one side the existing ecosystems community that we have built over the last 2 years, which now includes close to 40 EU-funded projects, all related to textile sustainability and circularity. And we expect that all those projects arising from the dedicated funding calls of this partnership will join this community and will enrich this community and use this community also as a joint dissemination platform. And we will also collaborate with a number of related EU partnerships and initiatives, and I will have a dedicated slide on that in a moment. What is important to say from a governance point of view is that all these activities, as well as the assessment of the results and the impact that we achieve with this, will be overseen by a partnership board, which will be set up after the signature of the Memorandum of Understanding, and will be composed of representatives of the European Commission and of the private stakeholders. So there is a governance mechanism in place that will take those strategic decisions as we move forward in the partnership. In terms of resources, to be a bit more specific, so the 60 million euros have been mentioned before. These are indicative right now, and we hope it gets confirmed later on this year with the signature of the Memorandum of Understanding. These will be initially a 50-50 contribution, so 30 million provided by the European Commission as part of the public funding of collaborative projects under our dedicated calls in Cluster 4 of Horizon Europe, and a matching contribution from the private sector of 30 million, which will be composed of several elements. It will be composed of in-kind co-financing of eligible cost of those projects. So these projects will, in general, not be funded at 100% of eligible costs. So there will be a co-financing that partners will have to make in those projects. We also expect that the SMEs that receive funding under the cascade funding model will make additional investments that we can value also against the private sector contribution of this partnership. I mentioned that companies will make follow-up investments for demonstration, for piloting and early market exploitation of their project results, which we also count against our private contribution, as well as some of the expenses related to the collective activities to improve the overall impact of the partnership. So it will be a mixed funding model, and this will be the case for the initial period of this partnership from 2025 to 2027. But I want to make it very clear again here that our ambition is first that the funding provided during that period to research priorities of this strategic agenda will be far greater than the 30 million, because we believe there are opportunities in other parts of Horizon Europe and other EU programs. And we also have a clear ambition to extend this partnership and to the and also to not only to extend in time, but also extend in scope and in budget in the coming years, provided that the pilot phase of 2025 to 2027 is successful, which will do everything to make it work. A very last word here on collaborations, and Marie-Hélène has mentioned it already. There are a number of partnerships that are currently running already, or are also in startup stages like us, that we see clearly potential to work with in the area of processing and manufacturing, specifically the Made in Europe partnership and the Processes for Planet partnership, but also the EIT, the European Institutes of Technology, KIC manufacturing is an area that was an initiative that we expect, we find interesting collaboration. In the area of materials and circularity, we are already in discussions with Circular Bio-Based Europe undertaking. We also believe that the new partnership on innovative materials for Europe will be a partnership that we will work with. We believe that in Cluster 6, food, bioeconomy, natural resources, there will be continued funding opportunity, especially for textile circularity and bio-based materials. And also the EIT Climate Kick can be an interesting initiative to work with. In the area of digitalization, there is the partnership AI, Data and Robotics that is in existence and that we see potential to collaborate with, as well as the EIT Digital. And in the area of design and creativity, there is the EIT Culture and Creativity that is also in a startup phase, and the whole Cluster 2 of Horizon Europe, Culture, Creativity and Inclusive Society, where we also believe there's scope for funding for some of the priorities that we have set out in this agenda. So there's a lot of potential to work with others to also enhance the resources that we have in this partnership for maximum impact. So, and with this, I would like to bring this presentation to an end. In terms of concrete next steps, as already anticipated, we're working towards the signature of the Memorandum of Understanding with the European Commission. That may take a few more months because, as you know, the European Commission is currently in a transition phase. So the new European Commission is not yet in place, but we expect that this Memorandum of Understanding will have to be signed by the new Commission. So that's why it may take until almost the end of the year to get it across the finish line. At the same time, we will work on the setup of the partnership board. Then already, as anticipated by Marie-Hélène, we have worked on a first indicative topic for the 2025 work program, which is entitled Digitally Enabled Local for Local Textile and Apparel Production. And what you see here is that that we have basically combined elements of the priority areas 2 and 3, so namely digitalization and smart manufacturing and on-demand manufacturing, into one core topic, which should have a budget of approximately 10 million euros. All of this to be confirmed by the incoming European Commission before the end of this year. We will already start first collaboration actions with the other EU partnerships and EITs that I just mentioned. We will also very soon start preparing or will be requested by the European Commission to provide input for the 2026 and 2027 work program topics, which should be published then late in 2025, if all goes well. And as soon as we know that the 2025 topic is confirmed, we will then engage in our usual brokerage activities to help our members to prepare for the submission of hopefully successful proposals under this topic, but also under other textile-related topics of the 2025 work program of Horizon Europe. And then, well, as Marie-Hélène mentioned in the beginning, a little later than is usual, we will see the formal launch of the Horizon Europe 2025 course, most likely in the first quarter or towards the end of the first quarter of 2025, so that then proposal submissions probably somewhere before the summer So this is a kind of a timeline that we're currently looking at. Obviously, all under the reservation of the new European Commission coming in smoothly and taking up the preparation work that the outgoing European Commission has left for them, so that everything can run smoothly. So this brings me to the very end of my presentation. There will be probably two questions on your mind. The number one question is, where do I find the document? So you can find the document on our website. It's already live there, so you can either copy paste here or take a snapshot of the QR code and go directly to our website and download the document. For those who are not yet members of the Textile ETP, I strongly encourage you to join us, because only in this way you will get involved in all the follow-up processes that we carry out to help our members to make a maximum or take a maximum benefit of this partnership. Our membership fees are very democratic, so I don't believe that this would be a big hurdle for anybody. And if you want to understand the details, again, here, scan the QR code, go to our website. There's a little button says join us, and you can fill in a form, and we will onboard you very quickly. So, and with this, I finish my presentation. I stop sharing my screen, and I will have a look together with our other speakers at the Q&A session, at the chat. And I would like to ask Marie-Hélène and Dirk to switch on their video again. And I see there's quite a long list of questions that have been asked here. I would say maybe we go through the list, and I see also Cornelia, who has been working with us very closely, who is a colleague of Marie-Hélène at the unit in DG Grow, is also here. So let's go one by one. So a copy of the presentation will be available on the same website as the strategic research agenda is available. And the video recording of this webinar, as I said, will show up most likely by tomorrow on our YouTube channel. And I show you on my last slide and before we leave where you can find our YouTube channel, but you can also go on our website and click on the link. So then where do we start? The question, I think I already answered to some extent the question why we need so long between the publication and the signature of the MOU. Marie-Hélène, I leave that to you, probably to repeat what I said before, the issue related to the transition of the Commission.
Well, I don't know if it's too long. I mean, we are already in July. If you notarize August, it's holiday time. And then, we start again in September, October. It's already the end of the year. And also, we are also in this specific year between two mandates, as I mentioned before. And in any case, we have to be ready for 2025. Okay, now we have the strategic agenda, and the topic for 2025 will be fine-tuned, and the topics for next year will be adopted beginning of 2025. So, the main point is to have the memorandum of understanding ready by the end of the year. So I think the timing is okay. I don't know, Cornelia, if you have other points you want to make, and we need some time as well to discuss it. Okay, we are on administration. We have to discuss it internally within DG Grow, with our colleagues in RTD. It's always a long and complex process.
Yes, good afternoon. Thank you, Marie-Hélène, indeed. And then just to remind everyone that actually the strategic plan, Horizon 2025-2027, in which actually the partnership and all the new partnerships have been validated, was adopted in March. So basically the official preparation started in March, and we are aligned in this process and timing with all the new partnerships. So we are part of let's say harmonized timing and preparation process.
And we need a new commission to sign it as well.
Yes, yes, indeed. But as I
Lutz, maybe bring in because I'm quite sensitive to the element of timing, and I appreciate, people from the private sector may think this is far away, this is long. Is it possible to somehow facilitate the preparation process for the applications, meaning that the actual official call will come later? Is there somehow room to allow, support, facilitate different partners who are with us today in preparing for the call to come? Is it something that we can foresee so that whenever the call is published, people are basically ready?
The preparation has started. I mean, we have a template. We already have a first exchange with Lutz. Okay, I mean, as much as we can prepare in advance and agree in advance, I mean, that's good. Huh? I mean, no problem. Huh? I mean, we can touch base again in September and see how we can accelerate. I mean, the process between us, at least, for sure. No problem for this.
Yeah. No, I mean, this is also, I think what I see is that I think we should probably wait until the autumn to see if there are any major comments still on the call topics that we have proposed. If that is not the case, I think we can indeed, Dirk, start a kind of an early brokerage process, which I would call to help people prepare for this call topic and see that we have really good quality proposals coming, because I think it's very important to show we have not a lot of time to show basically that this partnership actually delivers, because 3 years are a short time in terms of delivery of results, and the European Commission will actually start preparing for the next framework program that will start in 2028. Yeah. Probably already starting in 2026. So by that time, we need to be able to show some results. So we have an interest to, as much as possible, accelerate from our side to make sure that we get good quality projects, we get a good involvement of SMEs, which I think is a very strong point of our partnership and something that many other partnerships struggle with. So there is, I think there's all interest from our side to make sure that as soon as the call's out, the community is ready to respond with really good projects.
Yeah, that's a very good and valid point, Lutz, because I mean, 2027 is the end of the current financial framework, and the preparation of the next one, I mean, internally has already more or less started. And if you read the conclusions of the European Council end of June, the European Council even asked the Commission to come with a proposal for the next MFF next year, June 2025. So even before we get any result, but okay, that will be the first proposal. But I mean, if we want, and this is what I guess we would like, all of us. I don't know if we will succeed internally. It was already so difficult to get that one. So let's see for the next MFF. But I mean, I guess we would like to continue on the same path in the next MFF. So I mean, we will have to convince. So that's why it's important to have the global view. And if I can. It makes me, I mean, answer to the next question, maybe for the 26 and 27 call topics, if I can answer. I don't know if someone has to.
Yeah, no, please go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, that's the difficulty of the whole exercise. The partnership is for 3 years, 25, 26, 27. And then, I mean, we have to define specific actions and calls for each year. So now we are defining the 2025 topic, which will be implemented next year. I mean, the decision will be, I think, formally taken beginning of 2025 only. And then it will be the same in 2026 and again in 2027. So we have formally the topics for each year will be adopted beginning of the year. Of the concerned year, as far as it is planned. But even if it is like this, I mean, we have to, this is why your strategic planning is important, covering the 3 years. I mean, we have already to have an idea as clear as possible today on what we will cover over the 3 years for this partnership. So we have to combine both this global view to convince and to see a good articulation between the actions we want to implement under the partnership and the fine-tuning we will have to make each year for the work program, for the specific year. So it's not an easy exercise, but okay, I mean, it will be like this. Huh?
If I may, yeah, it's very important indeed to anticipate and to start for 2026, 2027, let's say brainstorming of the additional call topics as soon as possible next year, having in mind that the work program 2025 was a standalone work program, so an exception basically, and then I think we can somehow combine and work in a combined way for the other two call topics because of the biennial work program 2026-2027. That should be like this. But of course, the discussion will start only early 2026 for the biennial work program 2026-2027. But we can, of course, anticipate all the work and with the strategic research and innovation agenda and with the governance board to be set up.
Yeah. Okay. I see there's quite a bit of commenting also in the section, trying to pick out what are sort of really concrete questions. I think there was some questions related to what kind of activities are funded under the partnership that may be otherwise also funded in other clusters of Horizon or under other partnerships. So there, I think my answer would be that obviously, since the partnership is part of Cluster 4, we focus our priorities on the strategic objectives of Cluster 4, which is digital, industry, and space. So the way we've built a strategic the strategic agenda is of course that all the important innovation elements, which often are interlinked, are built into it. But it doesn't mean that all those topics will necessarily or can be addressed by this partnership in those three calls. So when it comes to, for instance, typical activities that run under Cluster 6, such as bio-based materials or large-scale recycling technologies and so on, these are probably the domain of this cluster and the domain of maybe the Circular Bio-Based Europe undertaking. There we look for synergies. And so we will most likely see call topics also for the years 2026, 2027 that are clearly within the scope of Cluster 4. So, but there are many interlinkages when it comes to digitalization and circularity between materials and manufacturing processes and so on. So these things cannot be isolated from one another, but the scope will always be quite strictly, quite clearly within the scope of Cluster 4. So that's that I think I could say about the topics. I don't know if Marie-Hélène or Cornelia would like to add to this point in a way that we are obviously open and very interested to explore also with colleagues from RTD, from other clusters, and also from the other partnerships to see what we can do in collaboration, maybe through some kind of joint call topic or something like that, that would allow us to address those topics that are a little bit outside of Cluster 4.
Yeah, nothing to add indeed. I mean, we will have to take into account what the others are doing as well. It's what I mentioned, and to I mean, having this global view will help us, will help you to target really the specific actions under Cluster 4 that will bring added value compared to the other ones. But I mean, yeah, this global view is important, and I mean, we will help you to have it. I mean, with we are in contact with our colleagues in DG Env dealing with Cluster 6, with those in RTD dealing with Cluster 2. So, I mean, we can help you to have this global view, and it's important to keep it. Yeah.
Okay, I see there was a question also whether we are we're looking here in innovation in current industry or current companies, or also create new ones. Obviously, both of this is covered. So entrepreneurship, startup creation, involvement of startups into those projects is absolutely also a scope. We see more and more startup creation in the sector, whether it is related to circularity or to digitalization. So these startups or scale-ups are absolutely welcome. So that's, for us, there's no difference with, let's say, an existing or a company that has been in existence for 200 years or a company that has been in existence for 2 years. The important thing is the company is innovative, the company is really creative, the company is developing and growing. So what is, I think, very important, and Dirk, I think you will underline that as well, is that the structure of the industry is very much SME heavy. So we want to make sure that those are projects that are accessible to SMEs and bring results that SMEs can actually implement in relatively short order, because these challenges are really immediate challenges that we have. And especially the smaller companies often struggle with funding real dedicated research and development work in their areas. So that's what we really would like to make these projects as a sort of have as a major impact, to see innovative SMEs from the sector here in Europe really taking advantage of this program and moving ahead in their technological capacity, in their capacity to bring really sustainable products and processes to the market. So that will always be a very strong focus in the evaluation of the projects.
Indeed. And I see another comment here talking about the industry operating with very low margins. How do you see room for all these innovations? I mean, I think we can tell everybody that we're happy to have 60 million, but we actually asked for 600 million euro in terms of innovation support. So indeed, there is room and need to do much more. But I think, as it was mentioned before, we should start with the fund that we have, be as successful as possible, as effective, to show to the European Commission that, yes, there is plenty of great innovation happening in the textile industry, and build on that initial positive experience and do more in the years to come, as Marie-Hélène already was hinting at. So let's focus on what we have, do a great job with what we have, and then look into the long-term perspective.
Yeah. I see there's also a question that probably relates to the next work program topics. So beyond the one on digitalization that we already anticipated, no information can be provided, that no detailed discussion has taken place there. All you can assume is that it will be, again, a topic that will have probably elements of the 3 strategic priority areas, combining different topics with each other in order to focus some concrete innovation challenge. So involving digital material manufacturing and sort of circularity elements in it. But it will be up to the partnership board that will be set up at the end of this year to decide then what these topics for 2026 and 2027 will be. And once we have that, we will also make those topics known, and then they will be published in the Horizon work programs in due course. So that's, I think, all we can say about this. So nothing is pre-cooked or already defined. These things are also moving, of course, in terms of what needs arise also from the market side, from the policy side, and so on. So we're a few minutes over time. I'm just checking if there are any important questions that we may have overlooked here. I think, Dirk, you addressed a few of them already in writing, so maybe we don't need to discuss those in further detail.
The question was on the digital product passports, which is, of course, very important indeed in terms of digital development. It's, of course, very, very crucial. There is the CIRPAS project that has been launched, CIRPAS 2, actually, which focuses on the DPP. So if there would be new other proposals coming in under this partnership, we would need to be very careful on not to overlap with CIRPAS 2 project, because that's already a very wide consortium. So again, we'll have to be careful that there is no duplication of efforts if there would be any proposal in that direction.
Okay, I think there's a question also in which of the categories sustainable development, degrowth, and communities can fit in. Well, of course, it's a research and innovation program. So we focus on technologies. We focus on bringing technology to bear to lower our impact, to be more sustainable and more efficient in the production and consumption processes. So we shouldn't expect to do here economics work or, let's say, consumer behavior research and these kind of things. But it's something that we are absolutely interested to explore also, for instance, with Cluster 2, which looks much more into these aspects of creativity and also sort of more inclusive and sustainable societies and so on. So again, there's a lot of topics that we will not be able to address with the core program, but that we can probably address in some way through collaborations with other clusters and other partnerships. Okay. Where do we find information about other sectors? So that probably relates to the other partnerships that we have mentioned. There is a website on the European Commission that explains or that lists all the European partnerships currently in existence. We can provide that link as well, or simply if you Google European partnerships under Horizon Europe, you will definitely find this website. The question whether recycling is prioritized over other R strategies. No, we do not necessarily prioritize recycling, but recycling is certainly a challenge that requires probably more technology development than some of the other R strategies when it comes to rethink and reuse and so on. They are, I think, more sort of also softer science and sort of non-technological approaches that will be brought to bear. But we also focus a lot on repair. We focus on remanufacture, on refurbish, on disassembly, and these kind of things. So these are firmly within the program as well. So the other 9R strategies are, to the extent that they are technology strategy or technology issues related to it, they are definitely addressed. Okay. If there are no further questions, then I would suggest we wrap up here. So first of all, I would like to thank our three co-speakers here, Marie-Hélène, Cornelia, and Dirk. I would like to say a very big thank you to my team here, especially to Tilla, who worked the whole process with me, but also Charlotte, who made sure that the documents that we provide are not only great in content, but also great in design. So well done, both of you, and of course my whole team that's supporting me in this work, and that will support the community going forward to make really the best out of this partnership. I think the interest that we've seen, I couldn't monitor myself, but I think we were well over 150 people that were present here today, which I think is a good sign that there's great interest in all of this. And I hope that will also be confirmed when it comes to the publication of the calls and the participation by researchers and by industry. So very excited to start this journey. You will find the document and the presentation on our website, and you will find the recording of this session with all the Q&A also on our YouTube channel. So in the interest of openness and transparency, which is part of this process as well, since this is a public-private partnership, so we are also committed to openness and transparency. The documentation will be prepared and will be shared with everybody. With this, I'd like to thank you all for your attendance, for your attention, for all the questions you brought to it. And I look forward to work with all of you in the coming months. We will let you know when our memorandum of understanding is signed, and then we will start the brokerage process that we mentioned, so that to make sure that when the call is out, the community is ready to respond. So thank you all. Have a nice rest of your afternoon. Have an enjoyable summer, wherever you will spend it. And we will be back definitely after the summer with more news. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.